Hello, what's up, and welcome to the Weekenders. This is the show where we talk football, and it's me, Max, and Lexi here today. It's been a while. We know Bobby is got an anniversary, so happy anniversary to Bobby, and we'll see him on the next show. But yeah, me and Lexi are here kicking it to talk about all the free agency craziness. And just like the fallout of that so far, and just like the NFL offseason so far, right before we get into draft stuff, which is coming pretty soon down the pipeline. That actually reminds me, drafts in Detroit this year. Do you have tickets to go, Lexi?
So I'm a season ticket holder, and there's like options you can choose, like perks for like the beginning. They added like 8 new things, and one of them was to be like in the like whole pit for the draft. So fingers crossed when it opens, I'm gonna try to get into that. But if not, I'm definitely gonna be on Woodward every single day by 6 a.m. I'm getting my chair down there ready to like prop up and go. So I'm so ready.
I think it's so interesting. Like, I'm really interested in seeing like what the reactions are, because obviously you're gonna have some people from all over the country come to the draft, but like, I imagine you're going to have a big crowd of Detroit Lions fans reacting to.
Oh, yeah. We've been waiting for this.
Yeah. And so it's going to be funny to see, like, when that first pick comes, like, are they going to boo the Bears, or like what's going to be the reaction to?
Oh, yeah.
To that?
And Packers and Vikings and the Cowboys.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that's exciting.
Can't wait to boo the Cowboys.
Well, yeah, that should be super exciting. So, all right, cool. Well, the first thing I think we can just kind of talk about is like the free agency. Obviously, every move has kind of been announced and broken down. A lot of the big moves already, and there's still some more moves that are going to come through free agency. It's a process of many days and weeks. But what was like the biggest surprise in free agency for you so far?
The way that Kirk Cousins can finesse the NFL. It's like I was ready for it, but I was not ready for 4 years, $180 million. It's like, what is this guy doing to get this money? It's crazy. One playoff win? But I was also super shocked, and I really like it, with Derrick Henry going to the Ravens. I feel like it's almost like he was like always meant to be there. I think he's going to be a great fit. John, Harbaugh's, I think a perfect kind of coach for him. So, I really liked that move too. And really just, I ain't going to, bias aside, whatever, the Lions have just been killing it in this free agency. They have been filling every little hole that's been seriously needed. So now it's kind of just like open season for the draft. You just get the best pick available when you can get it. And that's really never been a position that the Lions have been in. So I'm pretty excited, but there's been a lot going on. What about you?
For me, like, I'll say on the Derrick Henry point, I think Baltimore is a great situation for him. Like, as an aging running back, he can't be the guy where you're relying on him to like carry the offense anymore. And he went to a team now where like, he doesn't have to be like, he doesn't have to have like all the rushing responsibility, because
Lamar runs it's like a relief probably for him. He'll probably actually get better runs with this, because he's not going to be so like feed 2 yards, 1 yard, whatever. But
yeah, I think that was a very smart addition for both sides. On the flip side of that, and the biggest surprise in free agency for me, was Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, because I think I understand wanting a fresh start from New York, and I was not surprised that he left the Giants. But for me, like, Philadelphia, I felt like, first of all, has more high priority needs than running back, as good as Saquon is, but also like, he's going to be in a situation where it's running back by committee in Philadelphia. It's been that way for years, even though they have had some talented running backs. And of course, we know Jalen Hurts' ability as well to run the ball. That's going to take carries away from Saquon. So that was a surprise that he chose to go to Philadelphia. I think there were some probably some better situations out there for him.
Well, I think, and I mean, someone mentioned this, and it made a lot of sense. That just like he's from that area. He went to Penn State, so I think that it's really the hey, they're willing to pay me this, and then this is my home area. So I get it. There's just so much crossover, especially this year with like interdivision rivals. So it can never be me, but I get it. I really do. I mean, like just for instance, what's his face came from the Bears last year, Montgomery. So I was like, whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah, just a lot of like lines crossed in the NFC North. But yeah, I mean, those are I think definitely some big surprises. I think one, we're gonna talk about another sort of surprise situation in a little bit, but I just want to shout out kind of some of the other free pickups, which were like kind of like took me back here. Mac Jones. I think the Patriots moving on wasn't going to be a secret, but like there were a lot of people that were saying, oh, Mac Jones maybe with them drafting a receiver at 3 or an offensive lineman, like he's not the future of the Patriots, but they sent him to Jacksonville to now be a backup of Trevor Lawrence. That's very interesting. One that just came out yesterday, Marquise Brown signing a 1-year deal, Hollywood Brown signing a 1-year deal to Kansas City. That's super interesting. And then you also had Sam Howell, again, kind of another example of a team that has a high draft pick this year, moving on to kind of say, hey, we're going to probably get a quarterback. Sam Howell gets to go to Seattle and compete for a starting job there instead of, possibly being the backup to a Drake May or Dane Daniels, who, and, you're assuming the Washington Commanders won't take a quarterback now that they moved Sam Howell. You mentioned Kirk Cousins. Yeah, those are all kind of the biggest ones to me. Kenny Pickett going to Philadelphia to back up.
The Browns really have been doing a lot too. I'll say they've been making some moves. So
the Browns grabbed Jameis Winston, Jerry Jeudy, Zadarius Smith, Devin Bush. So
yeah. And then re-signed Mo Hurst too. So I was like, oh, reuniting the Michigan boys.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and then I'll tell you who hasn't done a damn thing. The Dallas Cowboys. I'm like, are you going to just even make any moves? Does Jerry even care anymore? I'm dead serious. I would be so pissed if I was a Dallas fan.
Yeah.
Like, get rid of everybody, ship everyone away, and we're not going to make any moves. We'll just rely on the draft. He's probably going to draft like 5 Michigan dudes too. You watch. That's just what he does. Which is fine because I guess they all came from a natty team, but still.
Yeah. No, Dallas has been pretty quiet. You're right. All right, let's talk about one kind of free agent move that may have had some head scratching when that's a 2-part thing. So Russell Wilson, we knew his future in Denver was uncertain. A lot of kind of rumors about the relationship between him and Sean Payton not being great. He gets picked up or traded. Was it traded to Pittsburgh? He was traded to Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, or no, because they released him.
Yeah, they released him, and then and Pittsburgh picked him up.
I liked that fit. I really do. I think that it could be good, like under Mike Tomlin. I think that they might click, a lot more than him and Sean Payton did. So
right. Well, it was Justin Fields that was traded to Pittsburgh from Chicago. And I think that was came as a bit of a surprise because you're thinking, okay, Russell Wilson's there. Obviously, he wants to. Well, he wouldn't have to compete for the starting job because they moved on from Kenny Pickett, and Mason Rudolph moved on as well. So it was Russ's job to lose pretty much. And now you bring in Justin Fields, and you have 2 guys who, in the kind of like consensus of NFL media and fans, they're thought of as guys that could probably start still for most teams in the NFL. The only difference is one guy is much younger, and Russell Wilson's at the end of his career, but still probably a starting caliber quarterback. Justin Fields may be the same thing, but again, he's a lot younger. So kind of odd that they're both now gonna compete in Pittsburgh. And like the question I have now is, who do you think ends up getting the starting job?
Gosh, and I'll say this, like Justin Fields is talented. It was never about like not having the talent. The Bears are just a trash organization that just drowns quarterbacks every time they draft them. But like, I think Justin might surprise a lot of people here. Here's what I do think. I think Russell will win the starting job, but I think that there can be times when they'll put Justin in for like running plays or whatever. And I think he's going to eventually build himself up to be the starter. Maybe it's kind of like, Rusk is like the bridge QB almost. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, but I think Russ starts in the beginning, but I think that Fields, especially like maybe with what Pittsburgh's doing, way Tomlin can guide him and stuff that, he'll, if he doesn't end up getting the starting job, I think he could do enough to where maybe he would eventually get shipped to somewhere else because they've seen enough, or seen more than what the Bears had offered at that point. So, yeah, I'm just shocked that it was only for a conditional 6th round. I'm like, damn, why wasn't Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes on the phone? I'll take him as a backup for a conditional 6th round pick. But, yeah, I think that Russ wins the job, but Justin's going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I know that the Justin Fields' representation came out and said that, he was looking for a certain situation. So, obviously other teams could have traded for him, but, Justin Fields, wanted to be in Pittsburgh. And I think if you're Justin Fields, like the best news or the best thing about all this is that he does have youth as his advantage. So even if, let's say, Russell Wilson outright wins the starting job, there's no doubt about it, Justin Fields does sort of have the equity in time to back up Russell Wilson, whether it's for a year or longer. And we know that at this point, it's not a secret. Russell Wilson is, for all of his accomplishments, he is starting to fade, and his age and is starting to catch up to him. We know that. So if you're Justin, even if you don't win the starting job this year, all you have to do is, do what you got to do, work hard, and that job could be yours. As soon as Russell, it can't be the starter anymore. And Mike Tomlin, as you mentioned, I think has a culture there to where, if Justin's earned the job, he's gonna get it. So I think it's an interesting situation that they're both brought in, because you figure both of them want to be the starter, but you can only have one. So it'll be interesting to see how they move forward. But I think with both guys, like this is the crazy thing. Like Pittsburgh is still going to be competitive, and
for sure,
it's crazy. Like no matter how tough the NFC North gets, and it's as good as it's ever been, like Pittsburgh is always going to be competitive, and that will, I think, continue no matter who starts.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, kind of again, moving forward in the quarterback talk, we had some interesting comments from former quarterback Robert Griffin III a couple days ago. Kind of like gets up in the morning, brushes his teeth, maybe pours a bowl of cereal or eats a nutrition bar or hops on the treadmill. I don't know what he does in the morning, but he gets up in the morning, turns his camera on, turns his microphone on, and goes on this rant about how Caleb Williams should pull it in Eli Manning, John Elway on the Chicago Bears and say that he doesn't want to be drafted to the Chicago Bears. And he gave a few reasons. A couple of them were basically like the Bears historically haven't done well, with quarterbacks. He mentioned how they didn't do well with Justin Fields. I guess he argued that the Washington Commanders were a better situation for him. I don't know if he kind of felt like he wanted to throw the Commanders a bone because he used to play for them. I don't know what, but long story short, if you saw the clips, if you saw the video, if you didn't see it, it's on his Twitter page. Go check it out. But everyone, and I mean everyone, from like fans to media, like crushed him for it. And it's because the Bears have done so much this offseason to make sure that Caleb Williams is drafted into a good situation. They acquired Keenan Allen. That was a big surprise in free agency. We didn't talk about Keenan Allen saying, "Hey, Chargers, love that you brought in Jim Harbaugh. Justin Herbert's great, but I'm going to Chicago. Like that's a big time receiver that you got. You already got DJ Moore there. You already have, built a little bit of something on defense. You have
that's what was like so sad that they traded Fields. I'm like, they built this whole team up, and then they're getting rid of the quarterback they had. Like I think his whole problem was just he just didn't have enough, So that was what was interesting to me.
It was to the point where people were arguing that they should, like, people were making legitimate arguments that they should just like let Justin Fields continue to be the quarterback and just get like they built, such a good situation. So for RG3 to go on and say like Caleb Williams should say he's not going to go to the Bears after the Bears have literally done everything to, show that they are supporting this quarterback, like did not make a lick of sense at all, at least to me and a lot of people who disagreed with him. But what do you feel? Do you feel like Caleb should kind of pull the Eli Manning, like I'm not going there card, or do you think that, now that the Bears have done all these things, there's like no excuses? So, because some people are saying that this is the best situation that any number one pick has ever had. So two sides of, the argument, like where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I've never been a fan of players demanding they're not going to go somewhere. It's like you should feel lucky that you're going into the pros anyways. Eli doesn't shock me because it's like they're smug, whatever. Like, he kind of just always rubbed me like, oh, I don't want to do that. I know Caleb kind of gives that off too, but I don't like that. I don't. You go where you go. If it doesn't work, it's a business. You know what I'm saying? So, normally, don't get me wrong, I like when Chicago gets trashed with things or whatever, but they have made some serious moves this off season. So I think it would be a mistake, not only of just like not just accepting the cards you're dealt, but with the options that they have picked up in free agency, and God knows that they've got some draft picks too. So I think it'd be silly of him to not go there. I won't say that I necessarily trust it, but like I said again, you just gotta take the challenge. If anything, you could be the savior in Chicago. What I'm sure Fields probably thought he was going to be, but you're given a lot of weapons. You see what they're doing. I think it'd be crazy to say I'm not going to go there now. Maybe if they didn't do anything, I'd be like no, but I don't like that. But yeah, he'd be stupid to turn it down at this point.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think he's in a really good situation. I think there are quarterbacks who have made it work as a rookie in worse situations coming in, and also like it also depends on like what are your expectations for Caleb Williams to do in year one or year two, right? Because again, for a year one situation, like Caleb's coming into a really good spot. We didn't even mention the fact that the Bears also have the 9th pick, which means they can have a really good wide receiver or a really good offensive lineman, or maybe because of all the offensive talent at the top of the draft, by the time they get to 9, they can pick the best defensive player in the draft. Like the Bears have great assets, have done great in free agency already. So, like depending on how their draft goes, like we can be talking about a situation where, and I'll say this and with the context of like the NFC North is going to be really good next year, depending on what the Vikings do, because we know the Packers are going to be good, the Lions are going to be good. The Vikings, we'll see how their draft goes, because if they get a quarterback, like, this division could be wide open. But, reasonable expectations for the Bears. Plus, if you think Caleb Williams is, the generational quarterback everyone's hyping him up to be, like, a 7-8 win season, like, I think to me is reasonable for a year one. And who doesn't
Yeah,
want
don't give too high expectations, because it's like you
Yeah.
came off like 2 terrible seasons, so
Yeah.
8 wins would be a really good point for them.
Yeah, it's like who doesn't want to start off their career like that, right? Like, sure, you'd love to be C.J. Stroud and go to the playoffs, but like, you like great careers. Sometimes you it's just taking your team from 4 wins to 6 wins, or from 5 wins to 7 wins. Like, and I think with what the Bears have done, like, there's no reason that Caleb shouldn't walk into that and shouldn't accept the challenge of being the face of Chicago sports, because right now there is none, right? Like, that's a great position to be in. Like, we saw obviously Michael Jordan is the GOAT, but like, being the face of Chicago sports is like, you'll be remembered forever if you can do that. So I don't know. I don't know what RG3 is on. I think there's so many reasons why Caleb should just be happy to go to the Bears.
I agree.
From your perspective, as
and also the Texans.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the Texans, but they made some like great moves. Great. I also saw too they signed Okuda. I missed that, so he slipped under the radar. Good for him. I even know coming from Ohio State, it's like when we drafted him, he was just injury prone. I just wanted him to succeed so much, so hopefully he can there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, last topic I want to get into. JJ McCarthy, your national championship quarterback of Michigan, your beloved JJ McCarthy. His draft stock, I think. His draft stock, I think, has been the most discussed out of any quarterback. I know there's been a lot of like back and forth about Caleb. There's been a lot of back and forth about all the quarterbacks, really. I mean, Drake May, Jaden Daniels. Like, there's been a lot of discussion, but I think what's happening with McCarthy right now is like everyone's like, he could go top 10, or these teams are really valuing him a lot, and it's kind of like, in some people's minds, it's like, oh, this is weird because, originally we thought, is this guy even going in the first round? So, question I have for you is, Lexi, do you think the hype in JJ's draft, or not the hype, but I should say the rise in JJ's draft stock is real, or do you think it's a smokescreen and just like draft season talk?
So I know it like dates like back to this whole like schedule that Michigan had, and obviously Jim Harbaugh just wanting to run the ball through someone's throat nonstop. But I think about the point of when JJ threw those 2 interceptions against TCU, and I think about what he did progress-wise until winning the Natty, and like. He threw like weird 3 interceptions against Bowling Green, but then never threw another one the rest of the season. And everyone wants to be mad about it, but everyone was talking mad shit about the schedule. Meanwhile, JJ just kept being the most consistent and reliable quarterback, in my opinion, out of, most of them. I'd say he's a top 3 in that category. But you don't get the whole passing yards because, again, Michigan is not a high-powered, air raid type offense. But, and I talked about this on Twitter earlier, but, I think that these GMs in this NFL, like, they've seen JJ as a person. Now, I know everyone kind of mocks the, like, meditation and, like, being in that, but his head is so leveled. For being, like, a junior, it's like his mindset, his mentality is almost like a vet in the NFL. Like he's calm, cool, collected. He really needed that this year because like he really struggled with that in my opinion. His first year as a starter last year, but I think that GMs see that and they see the positivity. The positivity, the accountability he takes, the way that he wants to learn. I've always thought his ceiling was the sky. I think that maybe Michigan hindered and held him back a little bit, but what they held him back, he made up for in other ways too. Like he scrambles like crazy. He's a run threat. Like he absolutely is a run threat. When he gets the ball, you can't just leave him alone because he'll shoot off and all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, like that guy's pretty quick. Now I say all this too as like a Michigan fan, but I just think that if people took off the glasses of like they had an easy schedule, they're cheaters, whatever the hell they're saying, that JJ is an excellent franchise type QB that you want to build a team around. I think he's a great captain and a leader. So, like I said, I think that given the ability and if he gets like the chance to find a coach that really wants him to air the ball out, he's going to do it. His accuracy is incredible too. He's made some incredible small window throws in his career, especially like in his senior or in this past season. So I just think the capability is there. The ability is there. The athleticism is there. A lot of people are just kind of like overlooking that though and just looking at passing yards. And that's just not all the GMs want. Sure, you got, Bo Nix or Michael Penix and, even Drake May that can like air the ball out. But I think they see that JJ can do that as well when given the opportunity. And I think he killed it really in his combine. I think that's kind of what sparked is that some quarterbacks didn't do it. And then now JJ, which I think needed to kind of like say, here I am, and it worked. So the way he presents himself, I think, is what's attractive to people, that he just kind of just is very confident who he is, but not like smug, if that makes sense, So there's a lot of factors that play into it. I don't think he'll go top 5. I mean, who knows? But I definitely think he'll be top 10. I wouldn't see why not, There's a lot of people that need quarterbacks right now. So I think all the quarterbacks in this draft, though, are going to be really good. I think it's going to be a pretty promising class. So we'll see. But I just don't see why JJ couldn't be. That's just my argument.
So I think that the talk about like teams valuing him as a top 10 player, like there might be some teams that do. So there might be some truth to that. I think it's more of a smokescreen, and not saying that he doesn't deserve to be in the conversation, but I think this is the time of year where we see some quarterbacks devalued for whatever agenda is, right? It could be teams really want a guy, so they put out like reports about him so that he possibly falls. Like we saw with CJ Stroud last year, like. Just like they put out crap about them. And then we also always hear about like how much teams value other guys, for whatever reason. So I that's what I think about the conversation. In terms of like JJ himself, I think that the interesting thing is the argument that people make against JJ is like, what is so hard about evaluating quarterbacks coming out of college, because JJ McCarthy was in a situation where the team's best strategy was to run the ball. And I think in some instances, it came across as, Jim Harbaugh doesn't trust McCarthy to win the game with his arm, when, that might not have been the case at all. It was just, you have these two great running backs, and
that's literally just Jim Harbaugh in the Big Ten, man. It's like all running game, like
exactly. So I think that gets conflated, but but it happens for good or for bad. Sorry, happens good and bad to every player. Some players, some quarterbacks are in offenses that allow their talents to flourish. Jane Daniels is a great example of that, right? Like, he was in a situation at LSU where, they were just like, you run for you run and you throw and you get all of our yards and, do all of the things. And, when you get when you put up the numbers that Jaden Daniels puts up in the SEC, it looks very impressive. Now, how that translates to the NFL, we'll see. But, some guys are in, great situations. And again, I'll go back to the CJ Stroud example. Some guys are just in situations where they're not asked to do certain things. And so it doesn't show up on tape. And so people assume you can't do it when that's not the case at all. CJ Stroud was not in a offense at Ohio State that asked him to run a lot, that asked him to be creative in the pocket too much. It was really about, making throws. And
yeah. And I don't think Ryan Day really trusted him really at the end there too, which was weird to me because he's very talented. So I think now when he's given that trust, he flourished, which I'm happy. I thought, as long as he can get his confidence level up, he's going to be a great player. And that's exactly what he did.
Well, to that point, it wasn't until the game against Alabama, the semifinal, where, CJ Stroud, Ryan Day was just like, hey, go crazy. You know what I'm saying? We'll put the game on your back. And that's where CJ Stroud became CJ Stroud, in that game. But we didn't see that, pretty much the whole season. And so again, I think that's the trouble with evaluating quarterbacks is every system is different. They're asked to do different things. And just because we don't see them do something at the college level does not mean they can't do it. It just could mean that in the offense they were in, he wasn't asked to do that a lot. And so it's an interesting conversation. Again, we'll see as we get closer to this process, where JJ obviously ends up going and kind of what he's able to do. But I kind of agree with you that I think some of the stuff about looking through the lens of, he didn't do it at Michigan, so we can't do it is kind of silly because we see how different quarterbacks end up doing things that they weren't even asked.
I just keep thinking about this throw he made 2 years ago. And it was a 75-yarder, and he made it on the run, throwing it across his body and hit it right on. So it's you give him that ability, he is very accurate, very. So we'll see. And I've kind of always said, though, that I think that JJ's game, or at least mindset mentality, will translate very good. Now, Caleb's is kind of, again, what I'm questioning, almost in the sense where I questioned CJ Stroud last year. And I hope, he succeeds, but is his mentality going to be strong enough to go into the pros where it's not going to be as kind of hand holding and stuff as colleges? We'll see, but I think all the quarterbacks are going to be pretty good. So we'll see.
The thing about this class is this class is so dynamic, and there's so many players that do some wild things. I tweeted this during the playoff, but I see JJ do some Zach Wilson stuff sometimes, and I mean that in the best way, where he just like you said, makes some crazy, run where it's just no, a lot of quarterbacks wouldn't think of trying that, but he just does it. And a lot of these guys, like Caleb, Drake, Jaden, McCarthy, and Bo Nix can all run. They can all run well. They can all throw on the run with different levels of accuracy, but all pretty good. Michael Penix is the one guy that's more of a pocket passer, but even he has some athleticism too. So this is just a fascinating class to evaluate, and I can't wait to talk about it more as we get closer to the draft. But
yeah, same.
A fun year for these rookie guys. But that's our show. We'll be back after.
Cannot wait. One more month almost. 1 month and a week.
Yeah, good to be back talking football again. It's going to be an interesting spring and summer. And we'll see you guys again soon right here on the Weekenders.